Thank you. That was a reminder to me how far I've come. I'm going to introduce myself in my language first. Hansan Wakkumagana, Malayan Snagasan, Sagaski Squintadikawin, Sakatawakut Sintnia. I just said hello, my friends that are gathered here today. My name is Madelaine. My traditional name is Strong Earth Woman, and I'm originally from Idle Across, Saskatchewan. And I want to give thanks for the territory, because this territory has taken me in and allowed me to live, laugh, love, play, learn, grow, everything on their territory, because I'm an invited guest on this territory, and I really honor that I was allowed to go through all my trials and tribulations here and call this home now. In my journey, I grew up, like, if anybody thinks about Indigenous families or Native families or First Nations families or Métis families, I think what I hear a lot that comes to me is that it's very broken. I hear that a lot. I grew up in northern Saskatchewan in my community, and there was about 1,500 people in my community when I grew up. My mom has an addiction that she still has to this day. My father has healed a lot of the stuff that has happened to him, and he's doing a lot of good things now in the community. But for my whole life, I never really had a foundation. I never really had a place to rest my head and a safe place that I knew I was going to go back to, even when I was 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, all the way up until my late 20s. I have 15 half-siblings and 2 full sisters. So I have a lot of brothers and sisters. And they were all adopted, given away, or taken by my grandparents. I was the only one out of all of those kids that stayed with my parents, but bounced back and forth between them. And for my whole life, I used to think, what was wrong with me? Why didn't anybody take me? Why didn't anybody adopt me? There's people before me, my siblings before me, and my siblings after me that got taken in. So what was wrong with me? Why did everyone look past me? So I lived with that really harsh, heavy feeling throughout my whole life. I bounced around from Vancouver, Calgary, Saskatoon, Regina, northern Saskatchewan. By the time I was 12, I think I had went to maybe 20 elementary schools, and I don't think I ever stayed more than 6 months in one elementary school. So I could never build a foundation and a connection to people that would be long, life-lasting. When I was 12 years old, I had had enough. Something was with me. Somebody was with me. Something told me. You ever have that feeling like you have this thought or this aha moment? Something's like, okay, I have to do that. When I was 12, I had this moment where I had seen so much abuse. I had been through so much of it, witnessed so much of it, that I think I was tired of crying. I think at 12, I was like, there's got to be something more. There's got to be more happiness in this world. So I found my mom, and I said, I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. She didn't believe me. I said, is that the last thing that you want to say to me? And I left. I hitchhiked out of my community of northern Saskatchewan at 12 years old. And I made my way to Edmonton, found my dad, and my dad wasn't I think he was shocked. It's not that he wasn't happy, he was shocked that he was like, what are you doing here? And I thought, for sure, if I hitchhike and I do something huge like this, my dad's gonna love me and take me in for sure, right? And when I got there, it wasn't the case. I came with him over to BC, and within 3 months, I left him because it wasn't the place for me. He was still going through this healing that I didn't know anything about, right? I just saw my dad as this person I wanted to love me, but he couldn't. I didn't understand why, and I'll tell you about that after. So I left him, and a family took me in. They took me in at Mission Secondary, and they took me in, really opened their home to me. But I think I was about 13 by then, and I started to feel this disconnect, like this family took me in, but it's not my family. And they didn't know my cultural ways, so I didn't have that. So I left that home because I started to experiment with drugs and alcohol, just to kind of shut off or find somewhere to belong. You know, with the people that were partying, it was always like go, 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 so I felt like I had a purpose there. And then I left that home, another home, and each home that I lived in got worse. By the time I was 16, I was on the streets. And my aunt found me. She was like my step aunt. She found me in the morning and she said, you look really hungry. do you want to come and eat? And she took me to bingo. She took me to the bingo hall and she fed me some food. But I started to act out even more because I think traveling so far from home and disconnecting from, even though it was dysfunctional and there was no foundation, it was what I knew, right? It was still familiar to me. So coming to a place where I really didn't know anybody and I didn't have any familiarity, I think I just started acting out. So I started to fight, got arrested, had conditions, lived on the streets, and then I ended up in foster care. I thought the one time that I got arrested, my father, I thought he'd be like, okay, I get it. You're doing all of this because you want my attention. And it didn't happen that way because he was still on a journey, you know, to figuring out who he was. So after that, I was in foster care, lived in foster care for 4 years, bounced in about 10 or more homes. And then I lived with a boyfriend, another boyfriend. It's all these cycles, you know, these cycles of violence, these cycles that I got myself into because that's what I knew. But I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I got myself in a relationship where it was really abusive for 4 years, and I'm really lucky to be out of that. And what got me out of that was this. And does anybody have any idea what all of this is here? If you look at this, it's medicine. So this is our traditional medicine. So right here I have a sage bundle. Does anybody know what sage is? Yeah, so we burn this to cleanse the air, but to cleanse our energy, to clean any negativity or any painful thoughts or anything, that's what we burn. We burn sage. And then I have a shell here with more medicine. And then in this bag is a ceremonial pipe. So this is what I carry in my life now. And this is kind of what's protecting me now in our beliefs. That's what, and I'll tell you more about that. But when I went to a ceremony, I asked for my traditional name, which I told you. When I was younger, my traditional name was Little Rainbow Dancer, which is the language, the Cree language. And then I asked for my name, and the name came to me about a week before Sundance. I was with this person who I was allowing to take from me. So when he sat me outside and he said, I want you to know that you're the strongest woman that I know on this earth. No matter how much I hurt you or how much I try to break you, you always tell me about the good you see in me. You still try to help me to see that in myself. And I thought, wow, that's the nicest thing you've said in 4 years. So I went to ceremony about a week later and I said, okay, I'm ready for my adult traditional name. And when you get these traditional names, like Sukaspisku, Strong Earth Woman, this name is different than your given name, Madelaine. This is your connection. This is what, when you pray, I'm sure a lot of you pray, or you know, whoever you pray to, the connection is to your higher self, to Creator, to whatever you believe in, to the universe. When you pray to that name, there's a vibration to the name. So when you do that, it brings you the strength that you need and that you're asking for. So when I pray, like before I speak today, I pray to that name. I ask Creator to help that name, to bring me strength, to deliver a message, to reach at least one person in the room. Because if I reach one, then that's going to snowball. So I got that name, and when the elder told me, your name is Strong Earth Woman, I kind of just laughed out loud in ceremony. And he's like, what? And I said, nothing. He said, tell me. And I told him. And then what I learned from that was that even the most wounded people on the planet, the most hurt, traumatized people, the Creator, God, whatever you believe in, will still work through them to bring you a message. So everything that we believe that you meet up with in our philosophy and our culture, anything that you meet up with, it could be healthy, unhealthy, there's a lesson and a teaching from both sides. So when we look at things that happen in our lives, or we get into something, we can get caught up in that place. We're like, why me? Why is he doing this to me? You know, what's wrong with me? Whereas instead of that, okay, what am I taking from this? What's the lesson from this? What am I teaching this person, and what are they teaching me? And then are we going to walk together longer, or are we going to part now? So when we start to think in that perspective, in that different way, then we don't take on, you know, that heaviness of that. So after that, I've started to live my life trying to figure out my cycles. You know, I got into those cycles, and now I'm in a place where I still kind of have that with me. You know, it's still here with me, but I can see it now. Whereas before I couldn't see it and I was just fully in it. So I came out of that. I came out of all of that sadness and all of that dysfunction. And even to this day, my mother, I went to Northern Saskatchewan this summer to speak with some youth, to tell them about this, to tell them that you can go through abuse, you can go through sexual abuse, you can go through all of this stuff, just like, this is me, changing my perspective on what's happened to me, living on the streets, you know, doing things to yourself that you never thought you would do, giving too much of yourself to people, crying for 24 years of your life. I give them a little glimpse that from that darkness there's light. From that darkness, you go deep within yourself. The longest journey you're ever going to take is to go within yourself. And to that place, if you can flip the perspective, because a lot of the young kids I meet, they're like, my parents are drinking, my parents are doing this, I don't have my parents. And I tell them, but what are you bringing to your parents? What are you to your parents? So what I took out of my life story is that I was a gift to my mom and my dad. I had to change that thinking because I started to, I think, low self-esteem and just hated myself because I thought nobody wanted me. But in reality, there's a reason why nobody took me from my parents. Because even in imagination way, imagine if they took me and my parents didn't have one child with them. Where would they be now? How lost would they be now? There was times when I woke up and my mom was being abused and I tried to help her. If I didn't try to help her and wasn't there, can you imagine what would have happened? So I had to start reflecting on all these experiences that I had and start to look at it in a different way. I was there for a reason. Maybe I helped to save her. You know, I'm not saying that I'm a hero, but maybe just little me being there helped her in that time. And I was a gift to them. And what I didn't realize is that my father, how many of you have heard the words residential school? Okay, so some of you. So we didn't know this growing up. None of us kids knew anything about this. Nobody talked about it. Nobody verbally said anything until I think I was about in my 20s. And we started to hear these little words, you know, and then it started to get bigger and bigger. And residential school was a time when Catholicism came in and they took the children from their families. They took the children, and it's going to be harsh to say these things, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but one of the things that was said is we need to take the Indian out of the people. So that was a really hard thing to hear from me, because then I started to understand why my parents exactly were the way they were, why my home was torn apart, because my dad went to day school, residential day school, and my mom's mom, my kukum, my grandma, she went to residential school. And then everything started to fall into place because I thought, what's wrong with my family? Why is my family so broken and messed up? But what they did is they tried to assimilate. They wanted to assimilate the children. So what happens in our families is the whole family raises the children. The grandparents, the parents, the cousins, the aunts, everybody raises it. And the children kind of bring this life and this light to the family. So can you imagine what happens when these people come in, and the fear of your kids being taken away, you don't know where they're going, the kids are screaming, they get taken out, and then the parents are left alone with no light, with no children, right? So they're alone, and then what started to happen was trading. We're gonna trade you alcohol, we're gonna trade you all of this alcohol for something. So what was they were trying to break the family is what was happening. And then at the schools, this hair, I don't know in your culture, hair is so important to our people. This is our connection when we braid it. We have teachings when we braid our hair. You know, we carry all of the energy, all of the prayers, everything that we carry is in our hair. This is another one of our cultural teachings. And so what happened is they would cut the children's hair. Anything like this, like when we get our hair braided as women, We don't just go braid any man's hair, because what happens is we put our energy onto them. We always have to ask, and if they have a wife, we ask their wife, if they can't braid, can we braid? And it's always with a good intention, because energy, right? We believe in the energy of everything. So we want to bring that positive energy and have that, you know, aligned. So they cut their hair, and the language, they took the language and they said you can't speak that savage language. So they already made it a negative to speak your language, when the direct connection to our language is beautiful, because our languages have an energy to it as well. Our languages are very verb-based. They're very in connection to. So I'll explain one word. As a woman, the word that means woman is isquiu. It comes from the word isquitu, which is fire. So we are the life fire. Do you have a connection to that when I say women are the life fire? Because they're life givers. Because they give life. When we come out of the womb, we go through the fire. Right? So that's what that teaching is. It's not you're a woman and that's it. There's no energy to that, right? So it's very, very vibrant. It's not flat. You know, anything that we do isn't flat. So when I work with this medicine, it's very action-based. It's very cleansing, you know, and when we pray with it, it has to do with 7 generations into the future. They say that healing for our people is going to come 7 generations after the ones that were in residential school, because 7 is a sacred number. So when we talk about the 7 generations, everything that we do, so now from my life, from knowing this, everything that I do, I look at it 7 generations, because I don't want to take those cycles and keep that cycle going for another 7 generations, because we want to heal our people. You know, a lot of our families are wounded. As I'm telling you now, my family is wounded. I still have to build relationships, and I have a younger sister that I still have to tell her, be positive. Don't carry dad's pain. Don't carry mom's pain. Don't take that on. Make your own story so that your children, you know, can heal that, and it gets stronger with each generation. I don't know if you notice that younger kids now are like learning faster, you know, that they have more gifts, they're getting more connected to all of their gifts, because it's that 7 generation cycle that's happening. So in the 7 generations, there's the 7 sacred teachings. And this is what we live by, and this is what I live by in my life now, because I have this awareness, right, that I don't want to continue those cycles. So in those 7 sacred teachings that we live by, so one of the 7 sacred teachings is love. What I'm doing here is an act of love, because I'm giving something to you. When you give, you're loving. So that's what we do. Like, so another one is respect. So we live by these 7 teachings because I think it becomes whole. But this is things that you all live by. You live with courage, right? Honesty, wisdom, humility, truth. So it's all very positive things. That's going to bring peace to you, and it's going to bring peace to the people around you. And our younger ones are now following this way. So going out of this, our young people now today are really standing and taking these teachings back. They are taking it back, and they are living it in themselves. They're the ones who are starting all of these like things like I Don't Know More. When we're all standing together and drumming and singing, the young people are doing it. They're the ones who are saying, no, we have to do this, because this is going to bring us all together. So our young people are standing up strong. So 7 generations into the future, that even your children will be standing strong and be able to drink clean water, not from the water bottle. But I just want to say that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Thank you for really hearing what I have to say.